Maul Shadow Lord, Season 1, Episode 5 and 6 out, and oh boy, does it keep getting better and better. Episode 5 is not really about Maul. He appears only very briefly in a few scenes, and none of them are particularly important. One thing I found interesting about Maul's side of story, though, is that when Rook Cass is talking to a couple of the Mandalorians, she's telling what they're saying. One of them says something along the lines of, "Oh, as long as we get paid, I don't care." Which I bring up as interesting because, again, I've mentioned this I think previously in this thing, as well as in the Big Maul video. Maul specifically chose the Mandalorians because they have honor. They do not fight for money, they fight for loyalty. And now he's buying their loyalty of the Mandalorians. Do they not understand this? Now, this might be something that comes back to bite him in the back, because he's only paying for their loyalty because he needs to, because he's at a low point. And if it does come back to bite him, then I'm going to be very happy. But if it doesn't, I feel like it will, though, because they're specifically drawing attention to how they're only here for the money, and the money is drying up. So it feels like they're definitely going to have something about the money being a point where Mandalorians, or some of the Mandalorians at least, turn on Maul. Anyways, the other thing we see with Maul in Episode 5 is we see some of the Knight brothers repairing his leg after it got injured. Is injured the right word for a metallic leg? I don't know. I'm going to say injured, though. So they injured his leg. His leg was injured and now it's getting repaired. And because, well, it needs to be fixed up. And really, that's kind of all there is for Maul. We see, once again, he's tracking down Devin because he's really interested in trying to get to her and turn her. But that's not where the bulk of this episode is. No, this episode is about Marok and setting him up as a terrifying villain for the show. I think it does that job quite well. I think it does get a bit undercut by Episode 6, but that's in a few minutes' time. Episode 5, Marok. We first see the Empire descending upon the city. They come in, they take over the police station, and then Lawson's boss, the chief lady, gets taken in to the interrogation room, and then hours later, Lawson himself gets called in there, and he gets told by by the Imperial lieutenant that she has been transferred. I think she might have been transferred to a grave, but we don't know. She might come back. Regardless, Lawson then goes into the interrogation chamber, and he sits down in the chair, and he looks at the table, and there's scratch marks, clearly from when the chief was clawing at the table in fear, as Marok has descended on her, or well, this one we don't know, it's Marok. Someone's descended on her. And then out of the shadows steps Marok, and he puts his hands on the back of Lawson and goes, "Tell me everything you know." And just like I predicted, that scene is his introduction to the show. And it does a great job. Then, later on in the episode, he's going down to investigate the site of the previous battle, from the previous episode, rather, where we see a bit of the Force visions from the imprints, ability that Quinlan Voss used in the Clone Wars. I'm sure it has a name, I don't remember the name, but he can sense the history of this place, and it helps show why he's such a good Jedi hunter. Combined with him being able to scan the area, he identifies that there was a lightsaber fight up in the corner. So he goes up there and he scans the area and he identifies the lightsaber cuts. He knows there was a lightsaber fight here, which presumably would mean Maul is not here alone, but there's Jedi here. And so then he releases Lawson, who then goes back to his home, where the Jedi have gone. Because, well, naturally, the Jedi... So clearly the implication is, combined with him appearing there almost immediately next episode, is Marok's trying to use Lawson to find the Jedi. He thinks the Jedi trust Lawson, and that they'll go to him. And we see throughout the episode as well that the Jedi have been on the run. They try and use the mind trick to get past some stormtroopers, but then another stormtrooper looks over and sees that they didn't actually pass security properly. So the first stormtrooper that they mind tricked shakes it off and goes, "Wait, what? No, we need to go after him." So they go after him, and then they're forced to escape, so they run off to Lawson. So that at the end, we see Lawson, his son, and the two Jedi all at Lawson's apartment in preparation for the start of the next episode. And also before all this, we see Lawson's son, I say break into the police station, because that is really what he did. He fully broke into the police station to say hi to Two Boots and try and find his dad. And nobody stopped him. He walked first off, when he walked into the building, he barged past a bunch of people, past a line of security droids who were clearly trying to keep people away from the control center, and nobody said anything to him. He talked to two droids there, and they just ignored him. Then he just walked in past a door, through an open door that one of the other security droids was going through. And then when he reached into the main hub of the police station, he just walked past the stormtrooper, and nobody commented on it. Why? How? It's just so forced way to get it in there, especially when you then have the Imperial Lieutenant, who, by the way, is a great secondary villain, as he's just intimidating, or not really intimidating, but he's just there. He's just being a pain in the butt to everyone. And he tells, and then Two Boots tells Rylan or something, Lawson's son, that, well, he's called in the Empire, and Lawson's just in the interrogation room. Nothing to worry about there. I don't even think he's mentioned the interrogation room. But regardless, he tells him nothing to worry about with your dad. Everything's fine. And yeah, that's definitely the case, Two Boots. You be a good old naive robot. Then the lieutenant shows up, and he tells Two Boots to make sure that Lawson's son is not in here. When what was Two Boots already doing? He was trying to get Lawson's son out of here. There's so many steps of security that he's bypassed. But you're talking to one guy who's actually trying to make him leave and telling him, "Oh, why did you let him in here?" He didn't. He broke through every layer of security and he was trying to get him out of here. It's so stupid. I mean, the rest of the episode is great. I love the rest of this episode. But that whole scene is just so forced. He also calls up, then when he gets back to his apartment, Ryle, I don't know what his name is, Lawson's son, calls up his mother, who we see as an Imperial officer of some sort, and she tells him to just do as she's told and be a nice little boy, everything will be fine. Yeah, that's definitely going to work out, as we can see at the start of the next episode. Everything's totally fine. Probably should have let the Jedi in, although I guess he didn't actually know they were Jedi. But anyways, he's let the... Right. Yeah, there. Then at the end of his conversation with his mother, she tells him that she needs to go because she's received some mission or some update or something. And I feel like, given the way that scene was framed, she will come back, and whatever she was doing there is somehow going to be relevant to the story as a whole. I don't know. I might be just reading too much into this. But I feel like they are trying to, throughout this episode, trying to poke at us and remind us about, well, her and her existence. Also, while we are with the Jedi, we see Master Daki telling Devin that while they have become an enemy in Maul, he is not their ally. And he's trying to... We see that Daki still, even with the Empire descending upon them, and he does not want to ally with Maul to try and take them out. He says at some point to just let the Inquisitors kill Maul and kill each other off, basically. And then they can escape off into the shadows and be done with it. Meanwhile, Devin wants to take the fight to them. She's angry. She wants to take what's hers. She's fallen for Maul's Kool-Aid. And, well, by the end of the next episode, she's quite literally on the Maul train. As for episode 6, well, it starts off with Maul doing a training regimen, showing that he has very much healed his leg, at least temporarily, so he will be capable of fighting against the Jedi and the Inquisitors in fights to come. And it's a cool scene. Fight the twin sons. And it's not even a fucking lightsaber fight, and they still somehow made it a better, more interesting, more character-driven fight. But Maul's literally just fighting the air. I hate twin sons. Anyways, that was a completely pointless side tangent that will probably piss off a lot of people. Go watch my Maul video if you want to see why I hate twin sons. But yes, then we cut to Daki and Devin in Lawson's apartment, and Daki sends Devin off with Lawson's son to go so that the adults can talk. And in his room, we see Lawson's son just cleaning up all the mess on the floor because there's a girl in his room, and it's adorable. I love it. Such a nice little touch. It was completely unnecessary, but it adds so much flavor to the world. And he's just cleaning up the world. We also named the sport that is definitely not lacrosse. I forget what they called it, but they did give it a name. So, yeah, if you care about that, then, yeah, it's in there. I forget what they called it, of course. So I'm not telling you. No, actually, no, I totally remember. I just don't want to tell you. Yeah, so they go in there, and in their little conversation, Devin at some point says, I bet we had very different childhoods or something along those lines. And she's clearly been reflecting upon the way the Jedi raised her, especially with the fall of the Jedi and her interactions with Maul, who's trying to push her more towards the dark side. She's starting to question whether the Jedi training was the right way to do things. She was torn from her childhood. She didn't get a childhood like Lawson's son did. And she's questioning whether or not that was the right thing to do, which I don't think she would be doing if the Jedi was alive, or if she hadn't met Maul. Maybe she would if she hadn't met Maul, if Jedi fell. But she's reflecting on it. She was promised greatness, and when there was a reward for it, then it was good. But as now she's just in a pit of failings, not able to help people, not able to be a Jedi. She's questioning whether or not the teachings of the Jedi were even worth doing, which isn't because of the Jedi, it's because of Jedi's training. It's because, well, when there's no end point to the Jedi, when you don't get to be a Jedi, the Jedi training is quite fairly barbaric. But the whole point of the Jedi training is that you end up as a Jedi, and it does benefit outweigh the cost. And generally speaking, yes, it probably does. But when there's Jedi fall and you're not the Jedi anymore, it very much does not. There is no benefit at the end of the tunnel. And especially with Maul now prodding his fingers into her, making her question the Jedi Order, making her question her beliefs, she's more and more falling into that trap of thinking the Jedi were wrong. And, well, then, meanwhile, Daki and Lawson are having a chat about needing to get off world, and Lawson's going, hell no, I cannot be seen helping you, you're a Jedi. And then Marok cuts down the door and slams it through with the Force, and then Daki holds him off as everyone else jumps out the window and climbs up onto the roof. And, well, now the chase is on, as everyone keeps running away, but they've captured onto an LAAT gunship, which Devin cuts open the guy from the roof. The scene that I said in the trailers reminded me of Ahsoka at the start of Siege of Mandalore. Still does. I mean, I don't think it's meant to really be a reference to it, but it is in a way, as she cuts open the roof and tossed out the clone, whereas Ahsoka cut open the roof to save the clone. Save its clone. She tossed out a stormtrooper, different things. And they then jump out all into the gunship, including Daki, who was pushed back by Marok. and they run away. There's a chase through the streets. Like, one thing this show does really well, I feel, is action scenes. They put the trace of the characterization within the action scene. Like, throughout this chase, while we've got the cool gunship fight, ships crashing and blowing up along behind us, we also get the character moments as Devon is talking about how she's never flown a ship before, but she's still clearly good at it because she has the force senses, and Lawson is questioning her, so we get a bunch of character there, and yeah, this is a good show. It's a really good show. Anyways, they manage to escape out from the Imperial Eye. They go to the casino where the Lawson's gangster friend was hanging out. And, they were definitely just friends in the past. Definitely just friends. Definitely no romantic interest there while they were off bounty hunting together. Yeah, definitely not. No, I don't know why you didn't think that. Yeah. But anyways, they go up there, and then they have a chat about trying to get off-world, and she goes, yeah, no, but you can hide out here for a little bit as the Empire comes storming in, because a shifty alien she was talking to called them in, and then they go up. So then the Empire starts breaking in. They go down the elevator, which I feel like they should have made it look a bit smaller, because it definitely looked like you could fit all four of them in it, but they only wanted two of them to be in it. It's like, just instead of having the elevator look like it fit four, you make it look like it can fit two. Anyways, that's a very minor complaint, but still a valid one in my opinion. They then, anyways, go down the elevator in two separate groups. Devon and Lawson's kid go down first, and they manage to escape, but Marok chases them down. Then the Master, Daki, and Lawson go down separately, and they just kind of vanish off into nothingness. I don't think we ever really see where they end up after like halfway through the episode. And really after they go down there, but they're off somewhere else. As then we see Maul's probe droid, who, by the way, I still love that probe droid. He is my favorite. He sees one of the Imperial probe droids and goes, "Oh, look at you, you old fancy man," or something like that. I don't remember what he says, but it's great. I love this probe droid. It is legitimately possibly my favorite character in the show. As Devon and Lawson's son drove off down, they reach the train station, and they hop on the back of a train because Marok is descending, and he's ignited his lightsaber as he's walking down, so there's a red glow behind him. He's bringing fear ahead of him. So well done. They then go off, they fight, and then they have a fight on the back of a train, Devon versus Marok, and they fight and fight and fight. And eventually, they breach Devon's all trapped and pinned, and Marok asks her, "Where is Maul?" To which Maul says, "I'm right here." And then he jumps in, and then we have another cool fight between Maul and Marok, and then Devon joins in on the side of Maul, and they push Marok back onto one of the far back trains, and Devon cuts the joint connector between the two train carriages, and Marok falls off into the distance. And well, it's another cool fight, and we see Maul. We see all these characters have their own motivations for being here. The Inquisitor doesn't want to kill Devon because he thinks that she will help him find Maul, because she's clearly fought Maul already. So where is Maul? Tell me where Maul is. Which is why he doesn't want to just straight up kill her, which he almost certainly could have. Then Maul comes in trying to save her because, well, he wants her as his own apprentice. Then this all combines as they then all, and then meanwhile Devon's just fighting for her own life. She eventually chooses to side with Maul because she realizes that Maul is largely speaking on her side here, and he does not want to cause her harm long term, whereas Marok almost certainly does want to hurt her just once she gives him what he wants. So she joins up with Maul, and they fight off the Marok, and then at the end of the fight, she's keeps her lightsaber on, pointed at Maul, until Maul turns off his lightsaber, because she somehow hasn't realized that Maul, well, it doesn't want to hurt her. He wants her alive. He wants her with him. But she doesn't seem to realize that. I don't know why. I feel like she shouldn't have turned off her lightsaber there. I get why she did leave it on, but I feel like it would almost have been better if she hadn't, because, well, she's showing that, yes, she trusts Maul, whereas keeping it on implies that no, she does not trust Maul to be on her side. Whereas, like, that's the whole reason she jumped into the fight, because she trusted Maul. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking things here. It was a cool fight, and that last moment, as she's not trusting Maul, is still good. And meanwhile, Maul's also now got Lawson's son on the car with him, because, well, that's where he is. Anyway, so then... Right. Then the final scene of the episode is Marok calling up his boss and telling him that he has found Maul, and that Maul is working with 2 Jedi. And, well, and that he's going to need some help. So I have a feeling that the 11th brother, the bird-masked guy from Tales of a Jedi and in several trailers, is going to show up next episode. I'm actually surprised that, well, 2 things. One, we only had 1 Inquisitor in this episode. And actually, I'm also kind of surprised that, given we only had 1, that it was Marok, who is the more important, the cooler Inquisitor. The more important, because he's the first brother, whereas the other Inquisitor is the 11th brother. And Marok is clearly the boss of the 11th brother. And so, we're not escalating the conflict. I guess we kind of are, because we're having 2 Inquisitors instead of 1. But we're not escalating it in that we've still only got 1 Inquisitor. We're not adding in a more powerful Inquisitor. We're just adding in another Inquisitor. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like almost swapping which order they came in would have been more interesting. Especially even... Marok doesn't really seem like he's that much better at fighting. Like, they've shown... Like, him versus Devin and Daki's fights, he doesn't feel like he's that much... It feels almost like he's worse against them than Maul was. It almost feels like Maul did a better job against Daki than Marok did against Devin. And because, like, Maul was able to basically get Daki to a point where he could kill him within, like, 2 minutes of trying... I don't know, like 20 seconds of trying once Daki kicked his leg. And it's like, meanwhile, Marok took a lot longer to pin Devin when he was trying to trap her and pin her so that he could try and force a confession out of her. And that's, so like, it just feels like Marok is not powerful enough to present himself as a threat to Maul. And it's going to feel a bit forced when he and the Tails Inquisitor, 11th brother, are fighting Maul. I don't know. I do feel like they should have made Marok seem more powerful. Honestly, have him kill Daki in this episode at some point. I don't know when you'd fit that into the plot. I also obviously don't know if they want Daki around much later. But I feel like the killing off Daki, which is another thing I was surprised about, really, is too important to the plot of the show. Like, he needs, I don't know, like, killing Daki needs to die so that Devon's, like, lost her connection to the Jedi and Maul's pushing her further and further down the dark side. And it will also go a long way to show, yes, Marok is scary, he can kill Jedi. Meanwhile, as it stands, it's like, yeah, I guess Marok's kind of scary. Like, he's fought off 2 Jedi, like, that is no small feat. Like, Daki was clearly shown in retreat for the entire time they were fighting. But, I don't know. I feel like if he had managed to kill Daki at some point, then that would have just set up his threats so much better. And now, again, I guess that they probably have some other plans for Daki later on in the season, so that doesn't quite work. But I do wish that he had died this episode. Or maybe he'll die early next episode and I'm going to regret all saying all this. But, yeah, who knows? Also, one thing I forgot to mention was that there was a scene in the police station where Two Boots is talking to one of the human cops saying, I'm sure Lawson will be very happy with what I've done. The Empire is very efficient and they shall find Maul in no time. And then immediately Lawson planted up on every screen as a criminal that fugitive needs to be captured. And then the Imperial lieutenant walks up to Two Boots and says, why are you wearing boots? Get rid of those. They're not standard issue equipment. Yes, you've now shown that. Two Boots is going, oh, I didn't realize that they would do stuff like that. I like my boots. Nah, without them, I'm just two. But, yeah, I don't know. It is all culminating in something. As Two Boots is probably going to end up allying with Maul in the end. I feel we're going to get reprogrammed by the Empire for being seditious against him in some way. I don't know. I'm just theorizing there. I am a bit curious where the show's about to go, because we've seen in the trailers that Maul, at some point of this show, will be down on his luck, crawling through the sewers. And I feel like that's going to be after the Mandalorian betrayal that I've talked about. As they turn on him in some way, shape, or form. And then he's crawling through the sewers, down on his luck. Devon's probably gone off somewhere without him, maybe captured by the Inquisition. And he's he's also hobbling, so he's clearly taken some sort of more permanent damage. And then he's going to be chanting the mantra, I master the Force and the Force serves me. And I just wonder when that episode's going to happen. Because there's only 4 episodes left. That's almost certainly not going to be the finale. I forget what the episodes were called. I'm just trying to look that up. So episode 7 is called Call to the Oblivion. Episode 8 is The Creeping Fear. 9 is Strange Allies. And 10 is Finale. So I feel like Call to Oblivion... So I feel like what's probably going to happen is Maul's going to get seriously injured near the end of Call to the Oblivion. And then episode 8 is where he's going to actually be in the damaged state. And I really hope, and emphasis on the word hope here, I'm not necessarily expecting it, but I hope that episode is about Maul suffering. And he's going to be reflecting upon, the Clone Wars and the death of Savage. Savage has not been mentioned in the show, aside from the offhanded mention to Devon about how his brother was killed by the Empire, or by the Sith. And please bring up Savage. I was promised Savage reflections by, I think it was Sam Whitwer who mentioned it. I want my Savage reflections, please. I want Maul to care about Savage. I want Maul to reflect on Savage. Please, oh please, oh please. I might be the only person in the world who actually cares about Savage, but I do. I want Savage. Anyways, that is episode 5 and 6 of Shadow Lord, and it's so bloody good. I cannot wait for the next set of episodes. It keeps getting better and better. And, well, hopefully that will only continue.